I've been seeing on YouTube every so often about the average IQ of Africans or Africa is 70%. The thing um, is that really fair to clump all the African countries in? Because there might be some continents that have higher IQ than the 70%. And to clump them all together and say, oh, all Africans, average IQ is 70%. I think this is what's pissing people off. Don't get me wrong. I mean, what's the average IQ of China? What's the average IQ of India? Is it 110? Is it 120 for India? Pakistan, is it 120? But instead what they've done, they've just said the whole of Africa, and they've just clumped it all together, and then they've come up with this average. Remember, Africa is a huge continent, very large continent. Don't get me wrong. There are going to be people whose education levels are going to be quite low. But to be really fair, if you don't have a chance of education, steady education. I mean, I'll give my nephews, for instance. My nephew, who are in Nigeria, he's a really very, very intelligent young man. When I first bought a computer for him, within that evening, he'd not touched Windows. He may have done in school, I'm not sure, but he had that evening was working on what was it? See, I've forgotten now. Microsoft's presentation software, so you could do slides, moving pictures and stuff like that. By the time the evening came to an end, he had done some small presentation on that computer. So he never, and he might have used the computer. I think he might have used the computer before, but he was just whizzing around it from his mobile phone. And this is when he was about, I would say, 12, 13. When I was in Nigeria, I was using my mobile to dial out. When I got back to England, my bill was 75 quid. So for the internet. I'd got up to about, say, 70 pounds. And it was because he then said to me, Uncle, I can get you on the internet for free on your phone. I said, really? How's that? And that he stated there were nodes on the internet, and there was I think there was about 3-4 numbers that were virtually constant, but they were constantly changing. And if you knew those numbers, those nodes that were on the internet, okay, you would get internet access for a period of time, probably 20 minutes, half an hour. I don't know what it was. They were cutting the time down. I was shocked. So I handed him my phone. He switched off the data. Did he switch the data off? I can't remember. Something maybe switched the data off. But he was able to log onto the internet without me using any data, and I had free internet for a good half an hour. Which is a lot of the time I just wanted 10 minutes, 15 minutes, look at my email, float around, see what was on the news on BBC, and usually I was reasonably satisfied with that. Now I had free internet, I think for anywhere between 10 to half an hour, and the nodes obviously changed consistently. I was, I wasn't really surprised. I knew that if this young man was able to have been in the UK, he would be working on computers, or sound engineer, or doing something, or film. He's a very, very clever young man. as much as we tried, I mean, we paid for, I paid for his schooling. There were times when his mother was supposed to pay his parents, and they'd come back from school, and because he was staying with mum, said, "What's happened?" "Oh, they've thrown me out of school because the fee hasn't been paid." And so then, if I was there, I was like, "All right, how much is it? Okay, let's go and get the money." And then the next day, he'd be back at school, or it would be 2 or 3 days later we'd get the money because we've got to go. If it was like on a Friday, he got sent home. Then Monday you go and get the money, or Tuesday, or whatever, it was from the bank. But this is a constant thing, very intelligent kids are at school in Nigeria, or back in the day. I think now the education, I think they've been allowed to have education free up to the age of, is it 16 or 18? I'm not sure. And then, but you still have to buy, I think, the books that you need, which is reasonably, um, the books are not given. You still got to buy your books, but the education will, you'll be taught. So these are the books that you need, and you come to school with those books. So if you can get all these books second hand, obviously for a lot of people, and then they can come into school and then they can study, etc., etc., and pay for their exams, obviously, but they don't have to be handing over the fees each quarter or whatever it is each term, which can be quite a lot of money. So this average IQ business, I think. I mean, look, it is what it is. I mean, if you say that the average, you can see here this statement here: blacks have an average IQ of around 70. South Africans have an average IQ between 70 and 80. Do Africans really have an IQ of 70? You see, again, it's not even average. It's, do they have an IQ of 70? And you see this picture of a guy who looks, from their point of view, what, subhuman. So the thing is, this is fine. This is scientifically studied. So what is the solution? That is the question that has to be asked. What is the solution to this? This is clearly a problem that Africans supposedly have an IQ across the whole continent of 70%. So, which is classed as retarded. A person who has an IQ of 70% is classed as retarded. So, should we now, it sounds like we should now somehow form a plan to eradicate Africans from the continent of Africa. Because to be on this planet and to have an IQ of 70% means that Africans, well, it sounds like, shouldn't exist. We need to remove them from this planet. Because only people of, above 80, at least 80, should be allowed to exist. So we should now go wholesale. Probably the easiest thing would be to nuke from the top of North Africa right through to South Africa, and then across from west to East Africa. Just drop a number of nukes and get rid of Africans completely from this planet, because to have an IQ of 70 as so-called human beings is not acceptable. Well, that's what it seems to be. I mean, that seems to be the solution. Let's just wipe the Africans off the planet. They are a problem. Their IQ is the problem. So that way they can't travel to other, European cities, or Australia, New Zealand, America, and stop them from traveling from Africa. Because obviously Africans mustn't be allowed, under any circumstances, to travel anywhere in the world, because their IQ is 70%. And so, they must stay there. Take all the resources you can out of Africa, because Africa is really a resources, a place that of resources for the rest of the world, and Africans are just getting in the way. I mean, they have their certain uses, but ideally, if we can get rid of these Africans who are, of all Africans, because their IQ is that of 70%, and then the rest of the world can now roam in peace and take whatever they want to take, like they did in before the war, and immediately after the war, they took whatever they wanted out of Africa, and did what they wanted in Africa. You had the Belgians. The King of Belgium was, he was a particularly vicious bastard in Africa and with African people. The Germans were pictured as, bastards as well. Listen, I'm not here to make a rant against Europeans or white people as such, but I'm just curious. The study was done. It's conclusive. Africans have 70% average IQ. So now to the next stage. What should be done about it? Eradicate African people from the African continent. I mean, I think that's what really. I mean, isn't that what the study is about? To find a way. We now know that African people have this, average 70%. So now they should be removed from this planet. Are African IQs really as low as claimed? Really as low as claimed? I mean, gee. If African IQs really are that low, then frankly, I find it surprising they are. I highly doubt a white with an average IQ, for instance, would be able. Let me just read this because it's quite interesting. This is on Reddit. Here we go. According to an IQ and the Wealth of Nations, the average sub-Saharan. Oh, this is sub-Saharan, not the whole of Africa. I apologize. I thought it was the whole of Africa they're talking about, just sub-Saharan. So obviously those people in North Africa have a higher IQ. The average sub-Saharan African IQ ranges from about 65%. Okay. I mean, what's the IQ of a chimpanzee or a gorilla? Is it 65% or 60%? Be interesting to know. Ranges from about 65 to 80, depending on country. Oh, really? Okay. Are blacks really that retarded? How do they even get anything done with IQs that low? Then again, am I right in thinking that most construction projects in Africa only happen with Chinese, white, or Indian investment or involvement, and that if blacks were totally left to their own devices, then they would probably revert back to living in mud huts? If African IQs really are that low, then frankly, I find it surprising they are capable of even working on construction sites and building anything. I highly doubt a white with an IQ of 70, for instance, would be able to get work on a construction site. Or am I overestimating the intelligence levels required to do the menial labour involved with construction? So that's... Oh, right, okay. So this... I mean, this was done about a year ago. This is interesting to... Yes, I actually imagine it's lower than they say. How can a continent get that much charity and still be garbage? Okay, so obviously someone of real intelligence put his class him as a Christian. Okay. Um, Given that Africa is a continent that has a wide variation of people with different IQs, levels, economic and social development, it's hard to prove this claim. On the country level, there are doctors, lawyers, and businessmen. If you were from Texas, you know that given much of the wealth from Africa is derived from oil, lots of these folks send their children to the Ivy League, and it's not because they bought their way in. They are smart. Lots of Africa is a crap shop, but individual countries test against your overarching statement. There are a couple that are outliners. All right, GPT, GDP per capita, etc., etc. Equatorial Guinea, Republic of Seychelles, Gabonese Republic. Oh, GDP total, South Africa, Algeria, Egypt, Nigeria. Well, I mean, to be honest with you, Nigeria, South Africa and Nigeria are the two top countries, wealth-wise. South Africa is obviously, infrastructure is far better than Nigeria at the moment. But given time, the next 50 years, it will catch up with South Africa. Algeria and Egypt are not sub-Sahara or classed sub-Sahara, so they shouldn't even be in this discussion. Folks, in the GDP total, have those within the top 50 countries on the planet, on par with places like Greece. Not that that's great, but it's helpful to orient with some of the ranks out there. They're doing something right. Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, and Nigeria have oils. The oil fields being run mostly run by whites. I think blacks have little to no involvement in the extraction of the oil. The Seychelles is an island and not a black African country, so it doesn't count. Algeria and Egypt are Arab countries. Oh, jeez. I thought these people are supposed to be. Are these people not supposed to be? Listen, Algeria and Egypt are countries that are in North Africa. They are still Africans of African on the African continent. They are culturally Arabic. They've taken on the Arabic culture, but they are still on the African continent. They're not Arab countries. Dumbass. And South Africa has significant white and Indian population who create much of the wealth. I was pointing out the problem with saying Africa. Your statement helps point out that issue too. Cats are all mammals, but not all mammals are cats. Let's have a look at this. Something right as in being born in the most resource rich country on the planet. Imagine what we could be doing with all that. So here you go. This wanker, Jake from State Farm, is basically saying which is what I said before, really, let's get rid of all the black bastards in Africa. Remove them, because something right as in being born in the most resource rich countries on the planet. Imagine what we could be doing with all that. So that's really what the crux of this is. You know, if Africans were not on this planet, and if we could get rid of them off Africa, you would have all the resources that certain peoples of the planet, actually, probably the Chinese are obviously going into Africa, wanting the resources. The Japanese, a lot of these Asian countries will go into Africa to get these resources, as well as America, Britain, France, Europe in question would love to be able to take all the resources out of Africa without any opposition, which is what they were doing before World War II and World War One. But let's look at low IQs are Africa's curse, says lecturer. So, how is it possible that the average IQ in Gabon is 64? So, yeah, this is all part of. I mean, you see this image here. Let's have a look here. Yeah, this sort of pandemic hatred of Africans and Africa and blackness, the hatred of blackness. I mean, these are just kids messing about. But there is a real hatred of black people. You know, it's a fact. There's, you know, the black man is the most hated, um, you know, person on this planet. The most hated. And I think really what probably people would like to do is to, you know, remove just this guy here. Uh, I've seen the video of him in search of a high Q African population, blah blah blah. But he's got a video out. He's on YouTube. I think this came out in the 90s. I'm not sure. But let's look at this. There's a let's go. World ranking of countries by average. So let's click through here. It's quite interesting. But I think the thing is that I do ask I don't have to ask the question. There were people who would love to eradicate black people from Africa. The problem is that you've got 1 billion people in Africa, 1 billion, and so Africa can clearly probably take 10, 20 billion people. It's a huge country. India could take probably 10, 20, 30 billion people, you know, before it becomes a problem for resources. You know, Africa is already at 1 billion. China is already at 1 billion. India is at 1 billion. But the population in these countries can grow probably 4 times, maybe even 5 times before there is a real problem. The land in Africa is sub-Sahara is huge. Vast swathes of land have not been populated yet. Vast. World ranking of countries by their average IQ. This is on the website called IQ Research Plus. So here we have it. So in Africa, the lowest IQ is in Africa from this graph here. So, sorry, this global here, and it looks like North African countries here are all in the sort of 80s, 85s. Countries that are in the bluish are all the highest around here, around this area. But here we go. Here's Britain at in 7th place with an IQ of 100. So the top country, which used to be governed by the Brits, is Hong Kong. Here you go, Hong Kong, and average IQ is 108. Then you've got Singapore, again another Asian country. So basically, the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places are occupied by Asian countries. Mongolia, which is, I suppose, part of that Asian, is in 6th place. The reason is because I don't see Mongolia as a particularly feature-rich country. Looks, but anyway, it is what it is. Italy is the most, obviously, average intelligence is the Italians at 102 of Europe. Then you've got Iceland, 101, Mongolia 101, Switzerland 101, Austria 100, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, and the United Kingdom are all 100 IQ. Then you have Belgium, Canada, Estonia, Finland, Germany, Poland, Sweden, Andorra, Australia, Sweden, sorry. Those are 99, so they just missed out on being the 100. And then you go into Andorra, Australia, Czech Republic, Denmark, France, Hungary, Latvia, Spain, and then the United States are all in the top 9. So they're all in the top 10. The average of Americans is 98 across the whole of America. The Canadians will be happy, just being that 1 point ahead of America. And then you go into Belarus, Malta, and then the Russians are 1 point behind America. Ukraine, 97%. Moldova, Slovakia, Slovenia, Uruguay, 96%. Now, the one that I find curious, I would have thought would have been much higher up than where it is Israel. I thought Israel, look, got nothing to be ashamed of. It's in, the top 15. But I still would have thought it would have been higher. But hey, it is what it is. So they're 95. Portugal, 95. Then you have Armenia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, not Kazakhstan, Kazakhstan, whatever. Romania, Vietnam, 94 IQ. Then you've got Argentina, Belgrade, Belgrade, I can't pronounce it. 93. Then you've got Greece, Iceland, Malaysia, 92 IQ. Brunei, Cambodia, Cyprus, Macedonia, 91. Oh, Lithuania. And then in the top 16, Sierra Leone, the first African country. The first African country. Let's all look. Let's click on. There we go. There we go. There we go. Oh. Right. So there's not much in here. It just says it's 91, rank 16. Okay. So that is the first African country in the top 20. Well done. Sierra Leone at 91 IQ. Thailand, 91 IQ. Albania, 90. Bosnia, Chile, Croatia, whatever this star, Turkey, Costa Rica, Turkey. These are all in the 90s. Then you go into Costa Rica, Laos. I believe that's in, is it in Cambodia? Mauritius, Serbia. Don't know what this one is. Ecuador, 89. Then you've got, Ecuador, Morocco, and Samoa, 88. Uzbekistan, or whatever it is, 87. Bolivia, Nauru, Guyana, Guyana, whatever. Indonesia, Iraq, Myanmar, Pakistan. It's not Pakistan. Oh God Almighty, whatever it is. Uzbekistan. There you go. I've got that one. Uzbekistan, and then you got Turkmenistan. These are all 87. There's quite a few of them there actually. They are all in the top 20 of IQs. 87. Then you go to Kuwait, Philippines, Tonga, Cuba, Eritrea. Eritrea is 85%. So it's a second African country up into the top 20s. Okay. Just outside of the top of the 20, but well done, Eritrea. 85 IQ. Fiji. I don't know what that is. Peru. Trinidad, Tobago. Yemen. Afghanistan. There you go. So the other ones before Afghanistan are 85 IQ. Afghanistan, the Bahamas, Belize, Colombia, Iran, Jordan, Marshall Islands, Micronesia, or whatever you call it, Morocco, And then, dun dun dun, Nigeria, 84 IQ. So what? So there you have in within the top 25, top 25. We've had 3 African countries. We've had. Let's go. Actually, let's have a look at some of the African black countries. Let's see the very first one is to get into this top was let's keep going. Sierra Leone was the first in the top 16. So well done there. And then another black African or another country. Samara, they're not black people. No, they're Polynesian or Poly. Guyana in top 20. I think there's quite a few black people there. Let's say that's the next black country. So, it doesn't really bore out this. Cuba. Oh God. No, we won't. There's quite a few black people there, but I don't think that population. I think it's quite a fair mix. So Eritrea is the next black African country to be in the top 25. Fuji, I believe again, Fujians are. I class them as black because they do look. Their hair is of an African type, very tightly curled. So I would class them as black. They may not, but who cares? Then you got to Trinidad and Tobago, definitely a black country. Then you got the Bahamas, definitely a black country. I think Belize is a black country, but I'm not sure. I need to look at that. Marshall Islands, is that a black country? I think it's a very small one. Then you've got Morocco, which is North African, so it's an African country, but its culture is that of is a Moroccan of Arabic origins, but it's an African country with Arabic influences. And then you have Nigeria. Well done, Nigeria. 84. So it sort of, these are the average IQs in the world rankings. And Nigeria's in the top 23. Then you've got Pakistan, which is 84. Panama, 84. Paraguay, 84. And then Saudi Arabia, which I thought might have been high because it's a rich country, oil, 84. Solomon Islands, 84. And then another African country, Uganda, which was a little bit of a surprise, but there it is. It's at 23, 84. United Arab Emirates, or whatever you call it, 84. There's quite a few countries there in 84, literally. Let's have a look. Yeah, quite a few countries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. About 20 countries there with 84. Algiers, 83. Bahrain, 83. Libya, another country in Africa, 83. Oman, 83. Well done, Papua New Guinea. Now, people from there, I suppose that Australia is literally not too far from Papua New Guinea. I think in Australia has quite a lot of influence in that region. But again, those people look African to me. I think they are out of African origin because their hair is very curled, tight curled. Very, very tight curve. They've got African features. Syria, I would have thought it would be higher, 83. Tunisia, 83. Bangladesh, 82. Dominican Republic, 82. And there we have India, average is 82 IQ. Yeah. So we got Lebanon, 82. Madagascar is a funny country. Is that? I mean, it's off the coast of Africa. I think it's a mixed population. There's an Indian population there, an Indian population. Zimbabwe, 82 in the top 25. Well done. And you got Egypt, 81. Honduras. So that's another African country that's there. Maldives, 81. Nicaragua. I can't pronounce it. That's a very similar flag to Nigeria. Very strange. Anyway, yes, flag looks very similar. You got Barbados, 80, and that's a black country. Then you've got another country I can't pronounce, El Salvador, 80. And then you've got Kenya, another African country in the top 20, top 30, 80. Guatemala, 79. Sri Lanka, 79. Zambia, 79. Democratic Republic of the Congo, 78. So this is where we're starting to get into the 78s now. Qatar, 78. Comoros, 77. And South Africa is average 77. So that must mean the whites as well have got that, because this is an average across the whole lot, mate. So the whites of South Africa, you've got average 77. Cape Verde, 76. Congo, 76. Senegal, 76. Mali, 74. Namibia, 74. Ghana, 73. Tanzania, 72. Central African Republic, 71. And then you've got Jamaica, again, African country, black country, 71. St. Vincent, 71. Sudan, 71. Antigua, 70. Benin, 70. Botswana, 70. Rwanda, 70. Togo, 70. Burundi, 69. Côte d'Ivoire, or whatever, bloody French, 69. Ethiopia, 69. Malawi, 69. Niger, 69. Angola, 89. Burkina Faso, 68. Chad, 68. Somali, 68. Swaziland, 68. Dominica, I think that's in the Caribbean, 67. Guinea, 67. Guinea, whatever it is, it's another Guinea place, 67. Haiti, 67. Liberia, 67. Lesotho, 67. St. Kitts and Nevis, 67. The Gambia, 66. Cameroon, 64. Gabon, 64. St. Lucia, 62. Equatorial Guinea, 69. I'm very proud of the fact that Nigeria is up there. The average of Nigerian, let's have a look. Where is it? In the top, I think it's top 23 or something like that. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? There you go. 23. So just outside the top 20. 84 IQ. That's pretty good, for Nigerians, as showing that 84, and hopefully that will improve much more in the future. You see a lot of these countries that are in the 84s. I mean, Colombia, Iran, Jordan, Morocco. Well done, Morocco. Pakistan, Panama, Paraguay, Saudi Arabia, Solomon Islands, Uganda. Well done, Uganda. Big up, Uganda. United Arab Emirates. Venezuela. 84. All of these countries are there. Nigeria's in there with them. The Bahamas are there. Belize. So Trinidad and Tobago, 85. Well done. So you see, look at India, 82. The point is that what does it mean when, look, we mustn't get butthurt because of this results, but the results are out, and then so what does that mean? What is it that these researchers are now saying should be done, or shouldn't be done, or it's just, look, that's it, we've just done the results and that's it? But as you can see from these results, hold on a minute. Yeah, it was delivery of my electrical probe, 24 volt, 230 volts. The UK is now on 230 minimal voltage rather than 240. Anyway, so getting back to this, look, this is quite interesting, but there are reasons for the situation that it, for these results. But as you can see, Nigeria is 83, 84 IQ. Sierra Leone, I can't pronounce it. They are 91. It's not always clear cut, and I think to clump all the sub-Saharan African countries into one bowl and then just say, 70, the average is 70%. Okay, if that's what you want to do, if you feel happy with that, if it makes you feel superior and better to that Africa is there, it's the supposedly consistent basket case. I personally would like to see Africa get out of this quagmire on its own. But every country that's been dominated When you look at the Japanese, they were bombed 2 ways to Sunday at either end of its island by America with a nuclear 2 atom bombs. And the Japanese don't hate the Americans for doing that, something quite heinous. They love them. They love the Americans. Germany was bombed nearly out of existence, but it was rebuilt with the help of the Americans. These are things that people forget. I think if we try to spend our time trying to help people, we listen, everybody, we are all born on this planet, and we don't become conscious about ourselves until really conscious, I'm talking about, until we're about 13, 14. I mean, we're conscious before then with people's attitudes towards us, etc. But the real consciousness comes in when we're hitting around the 13, 14 year mark. And then we see very much, the situation around us. I just think that, hey, it is what it is. Is it a case of wanting to help Africa to improve? Or is this a case of, let's see how we can fuck Africa even more for its resources, to get its resources? Because clearly Africans don't deserve these resources. We in the West, it seems, need and want, along with the Chinese, want these resources, and they're being wasted by Africans. So it's clear that Africans are not being allowed to develop and find its way quick enough from the point of view of the Europeans and the Chinese. It's very much, look, you need to give up the ghost, mate. Hand over that country to us, and we will run it, and we will use the resources as they need to be used, just like they did with Libya. They looked for any excuse to invade Libya to get rid of Gaddafi. The place is a basket case. It doesn't matter. The Americans, the British, and the French are all enjoying the spoils of Libya, enjoying the spoils of that country's oil. Because this is what it's all about. It's about the oil, and it's about the resources of the African continent. That's what the West wants. That's what very much the West wants. You see, the reason why Syria, no one has done a damn nothing in Syria, because Syria has nothing. If it had oil, then it would have gone. I can't remember his name. He would have been out there by now. He'd be dead. He'd be toast. He'd be finished. He's still there today because there is nothing in Syria that the West really wants. Even when it's been embarrassed at the moment by the rest of the world and said, look, instead of helping Sadat get rid of, and because those rebels are a cause of the problem. I've said before, the Arab Spring was a complete and total disaster for the North Africans, and they needed to be brought down a peg or two because they had this attitude about sub-Saharan Africa. Look at these people down here, look at them, look at us, we're advanced, but they fucked themselves up. They fucked themselves up well and good, because some of the people there wanted democracy, a certain version of democracy. And now look at Egypt and all these, Egypt is a consistent basket case now. Do you really want to go on holiday to a place like that? Tunisia, people have been killed there, where it used to be fairly safe. So this IQ business is fine, but if it's going to be used to improve the lives of people there, and people use it to understand what is the reason for the IQ situation, because it's not just, I mean, the fact that a lot of the people that they deal with are saying that have an IQ of 70%. These are people who go in, who farm, who go into the bush, who collect fruit, who cut down trees, who climb the trees, and deal with insects and snakes, and have tools. Are these really retarded people? But I mean, if the science say that they are, then they are. But what I'm asking the question is, what should we now do with these people? What should we do with the continent in Africa? Should it be handed over to the West because so that they can use the resources as they should be, because they're not being used at the moment? Strip, just like they're using the Amazon is being stripped of its resources, and the natives that are there are being removed gradually, year by year, killed off by some of the in Brazil, by some of the Brazilian raiders, ranchers, or whatever you call them. I don't know. I just feel that we're all in the same boat, and you should be lucky and privileged to be in the body that you are. None of us knew what body we were going to, or maybe before we came we did, but if we didn't, the body that you were allocated before you were born, you should be grateful for. Every day, you should be grateful. Anyway, I've said my 2 bit. Listen, boys and girls, if you find this interesting, could you please press the subscribe button for me, and subscribe. Let's get a few more people subscribing. I'm going to keep doing this because I like talking about and putting my view across certain things, not making any money out of it. Even the guys who've been on YouTube for years are starting to now literally seen a huge drop. Some of them as low as 95% drop in their income that they make on eBay. If they're an average eBayer. But anyway, that's a subject for another time. So yeah, if you could please, subscribe, just subscribe. I'm going to be doing more of these in the future, different subjects, like feminism, one of my favorite subject to talk about, MGTOW, the black situation in the UK, in America, black women in general, etc., etc. Yeah, so I'll be trying to cover different subjects in the future. So please subscribe. Thank you very much for listening.